In today's video, let's talk about the objects and classes in Java. Okay. So if you know any programming languages, the basic constructs are data types, right? So, for example, any other programming languages, you will have the even in Java, so you will have int, float, strings. Basically, will define the values like integer equal to 5, maybe float equal to 10.2, something like that, right? So, and string maybe say hello. Okay. So these are the basic data types. So data types is nothing but it defines the characteristics of the what exactly it's going to hold. Okay. Um, for example, int x equal to, let's say if you define a variable int x, so it's going to hold a value. The x is going to hold the values of integers of type integers basically. Okay. So it defines the data types basically. So like that. So in Java, so object-oriented programming world, the class is nothing but a you are going to define a data type for the objects which you are going to create. Okay. So it's going to define the classes are going to define, it's going to consist of the states and the behavior. The state is nothing but the variables, right? The fields basically, the attributes. So which we discussed yesterday, the attributes. Okay. And the behaviors is nothing but the methods, or nothing but called the functions or operations. They call also called operations. Okay. So when you define a class, so you're going to define what this is going to be consist of, or what are its characteristics basically. Okay. So and also it's going to have a operation. So what are its characteristics means, for example, if we are going to create a class called car, for example, or maybe so what kind of color it is going to have, maybe color of it, and maybe what type of number of wheels, for example, things like that. Okay. So for that matter, you can create any data types like that. For example, even if you want to define at abstract level, you can define it as a vehicle, for example. Okay. So yesterday we done. So vehicle. So when the vehicle is like okay, at the abstract level, so vehicle also can have. So it might not have a specific uh, Uh, so it can have a color, for example, it can also have a color or number of wheels, but it does not necessarily vehicle could be a car or maybe bicycle, right? It could be any vehicle, okay? So which may not have even um, wheels, for example, space launcher basically, okay? So it's a space launcher is also a vehicle, but it is not going to have a number of wheels or something like that, okay? So, but anyway, so the data type is nothing but the class is nothing but to say what you are defining a data type. So the objects is basically when you're going to uh, create an instance of it. Okay, when you're going to create a real object, I mean real thing. Okay, so out of this definition, so you define one thing of type, and out of this one definition type, you are going to create an instance is nothing but an objects basically, a real car basically. So let's say you defined a template or so you it's a kind of a blueprint. Okay, so for when you define the blueprint, so you're going to give it to a manufacturer. Okay, and that manufacturer is going to look at the blueprint and then looking at the structure and then design, and then based on that you are going to create a actual car. Okay, so based on the design, so how many wheels are there, for example, I mean it can have, I mean so that car can have two wheels or maybe four wheels, things like that, depending on that, and the color can be anything. For example, that's a real object. Okay, so we'll create. So let's take a look at our nodes. So the states and behavior. So object is basically a runtime instance. When you executing a program, so that object is going to be created. So that in the real world, so it's going to be a physical object basically. Okay. So in the computer world, it's going to be run in the memory. In your computer memory, the object is going to be created technically. Okay. So let's look at that one. So let's look at the car. So let's say, so we'll come to know all these access specifiers, but in general, you are defining a class with a keyword called class. Okay. And that means nothing but a blueprint or design or a data type. You are defining a data type. Okay. So for type called car. So it has colors and speed or number of wheels and things like that. Okay, integers and strings and set of attributes. And the behavior means about a attribute operations or methods basically. Okay, so that's what it is. And inside the, so once you have created a data types, you are going to create objects based on that particular data type. Okay, so you can create n number of objects, car 1, car 2, car 10, car 3, car 4, so hundreds of objects. The real objects is going to be manufactured. Okay, so when you are going to create an objects, so you are going to set those attributes basically. Okay, so what type of color it is, how much speed it can drive, things like that. Okay, so and you're going to create a and you're going to operate on that, on those objects, actual real objects. Okay, this is very basics. And so we can create this application, we can create this sample program in our IntelliJ. So we'll take a look at it. Okay, so I'm going to create a new project. So if we go to if you go to file, new project, so I'm going to, by default, I'm going to create IntelliJ project. So because it's going to be very simple one. So I'll just create a new project. Oh, sorry, let's give the name, right? So I need to give it a name. Okay, new project. So I'll give the core Java, for example. So I'm going to create all these core Java related one in this one. So let's create core Java. So IntelliJ, you can choose a JDK, whatever it is installed. So if you don't have installed any JDK, you can download and then set up. I think IntelliJ comes with a default JDK anyway. Okay. So you can use it 22. So let's create one. So a new, sorry. So I want to just create this new one. Okay. So in the source folder, let's say you have a main. So by default, it's created a hello world. So let me run this one first. So it's going to create. So this one is just going to create hello world. It's going to print the system out dot println. Okay. So now let's go and create our new class. So this is Java class. Okay. So we are going to class called car. So you can create any other objects, right? Like maybe animal or anything. Okay, so we are going to create a class Java type called class called car. Okay, so new Java class, so we wanted to add, so here it's just going to be creating the car. Okay, so this one does not have impact. Okay, so in the car, so what we say, string color, for example. Yeah, and and int the speed, right? I think the speed. Okay, and for example, or maybe int number of wheels, for example. Yeah. Okay. So things like that. So once you created a those, so we defined a data type called class called car, and then in the main class, so you can just create a objects of it, for example. Okay. So in general, usually if you say if you have any programming int data type X, so first you will define the data type, whether it could be int, float, or string, or whatever. So and then variable name, and then you will define like this, right? So similarly, so you will say data type, what is that, car? So the data type is a, so the class is nothing but a data type car. Okay, and variable maybe no maybe y, for example. Okay, I'm just for the sake of argument. Okay, so I would say usually you got creates values, gives a value. So here in this case you will give a car called default car, empty car. Okay, so right now the car object is got created by this time, but it does not have any attributes associated. It does not have defined any uh, values to it basically. So what is the color of the car? So it does not have any color, for example. Okay, and what is the speed? It does not go, it does not move anything because it does not have any speed. Okay, I think we forgot one more method called so we forgot to define the what is the attribute, right? Sorry, we forgot to define the um, operations method. Okay, public static, you can say public void drive, for example. So drive, so you can do system dot out dot println. For now, I'm just printing the something out dot println drive the car, for example. Yeah. So driving the car. Okay. So now, so we got the car. So you can define the colors for you can assign the values for those attributes. So, okay. So now you are going to paint the car. Okay. So the car color could be red. And so what is the color? Okay. Number of wheels could be, of course, obviously it can be any four. I'm just giving the speed can be going at maybe 60 miles per hour, for example, let's say. Okay. So now we define the car. So we don't need X. Yeah. So we define the we define the car, and we created an object called car, and then so we design. I mean, we created an object. We assign the values. So now we are going to drive the car. So let's do drive. Yeah. So let's see what will happen. So obviously we are operating. We are calling that particular method. So what will happen when you call this method? Obviously it will go here, and then it will execute this particular method. Okay. So let's see. So you run the program. So driving the car. Okay. So now you want to know how speed it is going, right? So when you so you're just saying driving the car, but how much speed it is going? So and what type of color is it basically? You don't have any information when you are executing the program. So for that, what you can do is so you can just access those instance variables here, for example. So so driving the car at speed of. And then, so this is a concatenation. So you will see all those. So plus concatenating the string plus whatever the values we are going to give. So we are driving at the speed, the values, yeah. And so, and we wanted to display what are the color of the car, for example, things like that, okay? So I'm just giving driving a car color. So maybe the color, for example, and plus I can do concatenation here, comma, plus so with a number of wheels, for example, okay? Something like that, okay? So now what will happen? So for this particular car, so we will see what are the attributes assigned to, the values are assigned to it, okay? Okay, we see driving a car at the speed of 60 miles per hour and driving a car color red, wheels 4, okay, with wheels 4, okay. So like that, you can create n number of objects. For example, if I'm going to define a car 2, so car 2, for example, and then I will assign the values like this one. So car 2, car 2, car 2 is instead of red, I will say black. And number of wheels maybe, I mean, just keep it in those spaces maybe. So maybe 100 miles per hour, for example, things like that. And then I'm driving the car to dot drive. Okay, good. That's perfect. Okay, let's see. So there are two cars basically. So one is going at the speed of 60 with the color red, and another one is going at the speed of 100 with the color black. Okay. So each objects will have these its own attributes. So technically what is happening in memory, so these whenever you create an objects, so things called in JVM. So so all Java programs will run in a box, okay, which is nothing but a Java virtual machine, okay. So everything will be running under a Java virtual machine, okay. Whenever this main method is programming is started, so Java is going to create a Java virtual machine. So in this machine, so all your Java program is going to run. So whenever you create objects with a new, so with up for the particular class type, so it's going to be create an objects basically like this. Okay, so it is going to occupy some memory. So this is all real objects is going to be occupying the some memory in the Java virtual machine basically. So if you create 100 cars, so it's going to be create 100 objects like this. Okay, so it's very basic, important, basic data types and all those things. Okay. So that's all, yeah, creating second objects and things like that. You can do all those things. Color, card, drive invokes a behavior. So thing, okay. So yeah, it's very important. So this is a very basic foundation of the Java of the object-oriented programming. Okay. So try to practice some of these examples, whatever you have given here. Okay. So we will see in the next session. Okay. Thank you.